Hey everyone, Kat here with a new tale for my favorite ghost Pokemon, Spiritomb. In this story, one of Spiritomb's 108 spirits is actually not dead yet. His name is Indigo, and he's been tracking shiny Pokemon for his fellow spirits, hoping to uncover more of their history. Today, he's polishing off a request for shiny Kricketune. Let's see where it goes from there. Indigo walked up the gentle, snow-coated slope towards his Pearl Clan home, weighing a great ball thoughtfully in his hand. He'd just returned from a rather interesting track and catch mission. He hadn't even realized that's what he was on at first. All he knew was he'd pulled out his flute to summon Sneasler, and when he'd stopped playing, the music continued. He'd followed the melody to a spot in the trees full of Kricketune. Farther down the slope, Snabra teleported here and there in time to the bug-type song. It was so easy to get lost in. Then Indigo noticed that one of the Kricketune looked a bit off, more of a golden color than the usual red. He thought there must have been a Kadabra among the teleporters that had gotten closer to better hear the Pokemon musicians. Hope it doesn't scare them off, he thought. The music is so lovely. Shh! One of Spiritomb's ghosts had scolded him, which usually meant the spirit had felt a nearby connection with some Pokemon. Indigo gave the Kadabra a second look. It's a Kricketune in a different color, he realized. And it's playing louder and even more beautifully than the others. Is this your Pokemon? Hush! Snapped the spirit. Indigo hadn't really gotten much out of her beyond that. Eventually, the Kricketune paused their song and Indigo made the catch the spirit had wanted. And she had more or less, hushed since then. People sure get weird about music, huh? He said to the ball. Naturally, an unexpected voice replied. Indigo thought another ghost had cut in, but when he looked up, it was only his grandfather. The retired Pearl Clan warden rested in a chair just outside their home and beckoned his grandson over. Hey, Grandpa, Indigo said as he approached. There was only one chair, but there was a crate of dried grain that he pulled over as a makeshift stool. What are you up to?
Standard old folks stuff. Watching the world. How about you? Catch anything new in that tracking service of yours?
He indicated the great ball. Oh, yeah. Someone remembered this Kricketune from a long time ago, so I caught one that played a similar song for them.
Ah.
A smile crossed Warden Ingo's face, and he leaned back farther in the chair.
Music can hold strong memories. On occasion, it can stand in for the memories themselves. At least that's what I like to think. There's this old tune I recall. I believe I heard it often during my workdays, though I've got no particular memory to go with it.
Indigo was surprised. What on earth was there his grandfather didn't remember? As far as he could tell, the man was a walking index on everything that had happened in Hisui for the past 60 years. Indigo didn't pry much into stories about his grandfather's distant past, but maybe it was about time he did. Hey, Grandpa, how much do you know about the ghost types that have traveled through Hisui?
Oh, I'm afraid I haven't trained much of the type myself. Though I believe I had a fire and ghost type partner once. Very long time ago.
Typhlosion? Indigo asked. His grandfather shook his head.
Its name escapes me, unfortunately.
I'm sorry. That's so odd, though. It must have been a very long time ago if even you don't remember it. He was about halfway through his sentence when his brother Jasper walked out of the hut, stuffing some sort of snack into his mouth.
Seriously?
He said.
You know Grandpa had amnesia, right?
What? Indigo stared wide-eyed at his grandfather. You did?
Warden Ingo chuckled. If we're being technical, have is more accurate, as I never did recall what happened before my arrival here. It used to be quite the defining trait of mine. I'm glad to have built a name for myself beyond that.
Indigo rubbed the back of his head. He knew his grandfather had appeared in Hisui quite suddenly a long time ago, but he couldn't imagine how awful it must have been to not know anything else at all. Jasper licked his fingers and headed down the road, his duty to correct his little brother complete. Indigo's eyes fell to the great ball in his hand. He held it out tentatively. Would it be wrong if... The ghost from earlier spoke into his mind, keeping at a whisper, as if there was still music playing somewhere.
Not at all. In fact, I'd be honored.
Now more confident, Indigo placed the great ball in his grandfather's hand. you should borrow this Kricketune for a while. Her whole family is good at playing all sorts of music. Her ancestor had this trainer named... Indigo paused, realizing he didn't know the name of the ghost who'd led him to this catch. The ghost sounded a bit miffed, but still proud.
It's Hush, she whispered. I said that several times. Pay more attention to what you're hearing.
Indigo smiled. Named Hush, he finished. I bet if you hum a little bit of that tune you remember, she'll be able to make a full song out of it. Maybe not the same one you heard, but... His voice trailed off, and he suddenly felt embarrassed. For all he knew, his grandfather wanted nothing to do with the old song, beyond using it as an example.
That's very kind of you. I'll give it a try.
Ingo took the great ball and tucked it into his pocket.
Now, as for those ghost types you were asking about, perhaps you should start with getting to know the Diamond Clan's noble Basculegion a bit better.
Indigo perked up at the suggestion. Hey, that's a good idea. I'll try it tonight, thanks. He stood up, but paused before leaving. Oh, and if I find out about any other fire ghost types, I'll let you know, okay? Ingo nodded.
Whatever makes you happy, child. That's my priority now.
He waved goodbye as his grandson hurried down the road. That's all for this story. Thanks for listening. The next one will be focused on Shiny Chansey, which I'll confess is a bit of a rule bender since it's a shiny I caught in Arceus before I started this challenge. But rest assured the story payoff will be more than worth it. Fun fact, by the way, I always update the end screens of previous chapters with links to the newest ones. So if this video is more than a week old, you should be able to click on the next story right now. If not, you can always subscribe to get an alert when it's here. So until next time, happy reading and happy training.